November the 2nd. This is our regularly scheduled meeting of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, as you know, and I will call roll to confirm attendance. So then we go ahead and begin. Supervisor Mitchell. Supervisor Kuehl. Here. Supervisor Hahn.
I'm here.
Supervisor Barger.
I'm here.
Deesia Davenport, Chief Executive Officer.
Present.
Rodrigo Castro Silva, County Counsel.
I'm here.
Celia Zavala, Executive Officer of the Board.
Here.
Okay, and since Supervisor Mitchell isn't here, I'm going to defer to Supervisor Kuehl if you'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please.
Happy to. If everybody would stand and your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Kuehl. As indicated on the posted agenda, we'll be taking telephonic public comments during today's meeting. The Executive Office of the Board received over 800 written public comments for today's meeting, and as those written comments were received, all of them were available to the supervisors for their consideration, consistent with the Brown Act's requirements. We'll continue to receive those written public comments throughout the meeting, which will become part of the official record. Madam Executive Officer, please call the agenda.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Board. Today's agenda will begin on page 2. Set matter at 10:30 a.m. Item S1 is a discussion of the public health order related to COVID-19. This item will be held for discussion. On page 3, special district agenda. This is the agenda for the Los Angeles County Development Authority. On item 4D is a recommendation to adopt a resolution declaring an intent by Mercy Housing California 95 LP to undertake bond financing in the amount not to exceed $24,310,000 to finance the construction and development of the Long Beach Senior Homes, a 68-unit affordable housing project in the city of Long Beach. On page 6, this is the agenda for the Regional Park and Open Space District. On page 7, consent calendar, Board of Supervisors, items 1 through 24. On item 1, this includes a revision as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On item 6, Supervisor Kuehl requests that this item be held. On item 7, this includes a revision as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On item 8, this includes a revision as indicated on the supplemental agenda. Also on item 8, Supervisor Kuehl would like to make a friendly amendment to update Supervisor Barger and Hahn's motion to also include property owners who reside in their homes and do not receive rent for a room or dwelling unit on the same property as specified by the county code to register on the Los Angeles County Rent Registry. On item 14, Supervisor Solis requests that this item be held. On item 14, Supervisor Mitchell would like to amend Directive Number 3 of Supervisor Solis' motion to instruct the Director of Parks and Recreation to develop a policy for allocating the remaining balance of the Oak Forest Specialty Fund using the equity framework in collaboration with the Chief Executive Office Anti-Racism and Diversity Initiative that specifically addresses shade inequities that exist in our high and very needed communities that are most vulnerable to the effects of climate change, to the prioritize that communities in the future planning plans also recognize the environmental benefits of oak planting at regional facilities in the county and report back to the board before the next round of funding to the Board of Supervisors within 90 days for approval. This is on item 17. On item 18, Supervisor Mitchell requests that this item be held. On item 19, Supervisor Solis requests that this item be held. On item 20, this includes a revision as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On page 23, Administrative Matters, items 25 through 59. On item 25, the Chief Executive Officer requests that this item be continued to November 30th, 2021, as indicated on the posted agenda. On item, On item 31, the Director of Health Services requests that this item be continued 2 weeks to November 16th, 2021. On item 38, Supervisor Kuehl requests that this item be held. This item relates to item 61. On item 40, this includes a revision as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On page 42, this includes miscellaneous additions to the agenda which were put more than 72 hours in advance of the meeting as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On item 57A, Supervisor Mitchell requests that this item be held. On page 43, Ordinance for Introduction, items 60 and 61. On item 61, Supervisor Kuehl requests that this item be held. This item relates to item 38. On page 45, Public Hearing, item 62. This item will be held for hearing. On page 46, Notice of Closed Session. On item CS1, County Council requests that this item be referred back to his office. The request for continuances and the referred back through CS1 are before you.
Moved by me and seconded by Supervisor Kuehl to approve these items. That will be the order.
That completes the reading of the agenda, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Before we take a public comment on all items, agenda items, the Executive Officer will read the short title of the public hearing item. Madam Executive Officer, please swear in those who plan to testify before the board on the public hearing item.
For those who plan to testify before the board on the public hearing item, please prepare to be sworn in. In the testimony you may give before the board, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Item 62 is a hearing on project number 2020-000606 to approve and update it to the housing element of the general plan for the 2029 planning period and amend County Code Title 22, Planning and Zoning, to add development standards pertaining to floor area dedicated to residential use in mixed-use projects in the mixed-use development zone. A written statement was provided and no correspondence was received.
Thank you. We'll now take public comments for all agenda items, including the public hearing item. Madam Executive Officer, please read the call-in information that was also provided on the agenda and explain the speaking rules to those members of the public who are calling in to address the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As indicated on the agenda, members of the public wishing to offer public comment should call 877-336-4437 and use participant code number 1366786. To repeat, please call 877-336-4437 and use participant code number 1366786. Let me repeat that, 1366786. Do not call that number if you only want to listen to the meeting. To listen only, please call 877-873-8017 and follow the instructions. To members of the public calling in, when it's your turn to speak, please state your name and which agenda items you wish to speak on. You have 1 minute to speak on one agenda item or 2 minutes to speak on 2 or more agenda items. In addition, those who would like to address the board with general public comment will be provided 1 additional minute for a maximum total up to 3 minutes. We will allocate 60 minutes for public comment on all of the items. We will continue to accept all written comments that come in during the meeting, which will become part of the record. When speaking on the agenda items, you must be on topic. Our goal is to get through as many speakers as we can. If you're not speaking on topic, or if we cannot tell if you're speaking on an agenda item, you will get 1 warning from County Council or the Chair. If you do not immediately or clearly get on topic, or if you stray off topic again, you will forfeit the rest of your time, and the Chair will move to the next speaker. Please note that if you're also listening to the board meeting on a computer or speakerphone, you will need to turn down the volume on those devices as soon as the moderator calls on you. If you do not turn down the volume, there will be an echo. Moderator, may we have the first speaker, please?
As a reminder, to address the board, if you have not already done so, please press 1, then 0 at this time, but do not press 1 and 0 a second time, or you will be removed from the queue.
We will now hear the Spanish interpretation of this reminder.
Si aún no lo ha hecho, presione 1 y 0 en este momento. No presione 1 y 0 por segunda vez o será eliminado de la fila. Gracias.
Thank you. May we have the first speaker, please?
Thank you. Our first speaker today is Adriana Long. Please state which agenda items you'll be addressing today and whether you wish to address general public comment. You may begin.
Adriana Ong with Let's Get Free LA and ACLU SoCal in support of item number 16. Thank you, Supervisor Solis, for your attention to this important issue. Every year, LA County extracts millions of dollars in phone fees and commissary markups from families of incarcerated people, families already under tremendous economic strain. Although the law requires the funds squeezed from families under duress be used primarily for the benefit of incarcerated people, we know the Sheriff's Department pockets roughly half to uphold its jail system. And even the half it purportedly uses to benefit incarcerated people is questionable in terms of whether it actually goes for programs and services, in terms of whether those programs are actually beneficial, and in terms of whether those programs could be more appropriately funded through alternative funding sources. Programs to meet our community members' health needs or to facilitate diversion and reentry can and should be supported by alternative funding sources. Otherwise, the county is just undermining its own efforts by funding them through fees that destabilize families and saddle them with debt that makes returning to communities harder. For all these reasons, we support the comprehensive review and audit this motion calls for and urge the county to expeditiously continue the move towards ending phone fees and commissary price gouging when it's jailed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Diego Rodriguez. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Diego Rodriguez, and I'll be speaking on agenda items 19 and item 57C. Thank you, members of the board, and first I would like to thank Supervisor Solis for highlighting diabetes prevention through agenda item 19. As community service providers with over 45 years of experience, we know that rates of depression among individuals with diabetes are 2 times greater than in the general population. Young adults with diabetes especially at a higher risk for poor physical and mental health outcomes. And people with diabetes are twice as likely to experience eating disorders, among many other issues. This motion creates a roadmap paved with clear and actionable steps towards educating, equipping, and empowering individuals and families, including culturally and linguistically appropriate education campaigns, collaboration between DPH, LACO, DMH, and DHS, towards enhancing students' access to health needs at schools, advancing efforts to prevent comorbidities, and encouraging further patient screening. We have seen how the incidence of certain health conditions have increased during the pandemic. Data from around the country has shown us that diabetes is one of the top risk factors for severe COVID infection. This timely motion offers a well-crafted, multifaceted response to a very timely issue. I ask you to fully support it. On item 57, violence has increased significantly, including in East LA, where Alma Family Services headquarters is based. With the expansion of the Trauma Prevention Initiative, we can change that. This initiative, the Hospital Intervention and Street Outreach Prongs, will tackle violence from different angles. We will employ individuals to engage victims of violence bedside in the hospital, provide peer support and guidance, linkage to services, including counseling, employment, substance use treatment, and victim compensation. This is exactly what the community needs. Thank you for this motion, Supervisor Solis and Ham, and I respectfully ask the board to support this item as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Roy Humphreys. Please state the agenda items you're addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Just item number 4 in public comment. You have time for gender parity on physical agility and peace officer standards and training and can't even get the number of unprocessed sexual assault kits, knowing how many children are sexually assaulted under Child Protective Services every year. Y'all are the best. As to parity, my ex-Marine son could tell you about that in 5 minutes. On public comment, y'all received copies of U.S. Codes 13, 24, and 25 on improper entry by aliens into the United States and harboring certain aliens, noting that these are criminal acts. with up to 15 years in prison as felons. Ladies, your sanctuary policy and actions seem to qualify you as felons. Now, Supervisor Barger will get special consideration, being the only one who voted no on giving $3 million tax dollars to illegal alien defense. Ladies, what do you tell the little girls and boys about law and order in California as part of one nation, indivisible? Ladies, illegal immigration is everybody's duty and responsibility. And Supervisor Hahn, Nick and Lauren should be made to use the public bus system for all duties until such times you get that bench on Nogales for our bus patrons. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Lynn Kalmbeck. Please state which agenda items you'll be addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
My name is Lynn Kalmbeck, and I'm the president of Santa Clarita Organization for Planning and the Environment, and I'm opposing item 41, which I believe you already approved on consent calendar, which I don't know how you can do that before people speak. But the reason I'm concerned about it is that Mission Village, which is the huge Track 2 of Newhall Ranch, which they are currently grading and building, was a prior abandoned oil field. And it's our understanding that under your regulations 110.4 of hazardous mitigation, that the housing is not supposed to be located directly over abandoned oil wells. Now, these wells, according to reports at regional planning, seem to have all been properly abandoned, but we continue to have a concern about methane leaking into future homes. And we have submitted comments where you can see that there is really no indication about where those oil wells were or where their structures are being built directly over them. And we would just like you to take a look at this before you approve the final maps, just to ensure that future residents are safe from leaking methane, as we all remember happened at Belmont School. We don't want to have that happen out in our community, too. And the other thing that I would like to, there's been a lot of issues with, this is general public comment, we would encourage the county to form a citizens oversight committee to review whether conditions of approval for projects are really being enforced, because it seems that projects get approved and then that's the end. There's no enforcement, there's no oversight, and the community is not protected when, in fact, many of us agreed or didn't fight projects because we understood certain conditions were being added to protect the community. So I have requested this at regional
your time
planning.
has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Victoria Urania. Please state which agenda items you'll be addressing today and whether you wish to address general public comment. You may begin.
I'm Victoria Urania from the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. We're speaking in support of this motion for agenda item 14, Interim Housing Services Fund. This would positively impact our projects and the work we're doing to be part of the solution to homelessness. We recently partnered with the City of Baldwin Park and the San Gabriel Valley Regional Housing Trust to develop the first tiny home bridge housing site in the San Gabriel Valley, Esperanza Villa. This site will provide 25 units of interim housing paired with supportive services, on-site amenities for individuals experiencing homelessness in Baldwin Park. A second 25-unit tiny home site has also been approved in the City of Montebello. Additional funding and county support would better sustain current programming in addition to allowing our cities to expand their impact and further serve people experiencing homelessness, ultimately strengthening the region's homeless housing and services system. We appreciate your ongoing support and attention to this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is MJ King. Please state which agenda items you are addressing and whether you are addressing general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning. This is MJ King, and I'm a resident of District 1. I'd like to speak on agenda items 4, 6, 16, 30, 44, 57C, and general public comment.
Please begin. You have 3 minutes.
On item 4, while I applaud attempts at increasing workplace gender equity, representation of women in the Sheriff's Department will not change the fact that LASD is a viciously misogynistic institution that harms women at every turn. The county cannot pretend that hiring more women to join the ranks of LASD is a sudden cure for the gendered violence that LASD practices every day. There is no research supporting the idea that more women police officers lead to better policing or community relations. Instead, women officers simply get sucked into the same institutionalized violence that's inherent in LASD and all forms of policing. Women cannot be expected to come in and fix the culture of violence that underlies policing, and it's wrong to even place that burden on them in the first place. One reason that women don't want to join LASD is because they face sexual harassment and misconduct from their male peers. If the county is concerned with gender equity, the board needs to actually address the rampant gendered violence and misogyny that LASD inflicts and the patriarchal structures that LASD upholds. Black women are at highest risk of any group for experiencing sexual violence perpetrated by law enforcement. 40% of police officers are domestic abusers, inflicting violence on women at much higher rates than the general population. There's well-documented evidence that law enforcement consistently fails to provide adequate support to survivors, including inflicting violence and criminalization, leading to more trauma and harm. A study by the National Domestic Violence Hotline concluded that 2 in 3 women who contact the police report that they were extremely afraid that law enforcement would retaliate against them. The results of the study also show that 1 in 4 women who've contacted the police report they've been threatened with arrest or arrested during reporting an incident of sexual assault. Incarcerated women experience sexual assault, rape, sexual extortion, groping during body searches, and brutal retaliation if they complain about it. Women are further targeted for abuse by LASD based on their race, sexual orientation, and mental illness. In the mission of advancing gender parity, the lack of women deputies and officers is the least egregious offense that LASD has committed. In order to genuinely advance gender parity, the board needs to focus on the most vulnerable women in our communities, not encourage more representation in misogyny. There are disturbingly high rates of sexual and gendered violence committed by LASD that the board is choosing to ignore in favor of hiring more women to be complicit in it. On item 44, the sheriff's request for funds does not specify what these reimbursements are for. Yet another example of the sheriff refusing transparency and accountability. This is unacceptable. The sheriff costs LA County taxpayers millions every year. Today's board agenda alone, LASD misconduct wasted $3.3 million in the form of settlements. This is a ridiculous amount of money for us to be spending bailing out the sheriff's department for their violence and misconduct, and we watch it happen every 2 weeks. Stop funding sheriff violence. Genoveva must go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
As a reminder, to address the board, if you have not already done so, please press 1 and then 0 at this time.
Thank you. My timer was going. Could you hear the beeping?
But do not press 1 and 0 a second time, or you'll be removed from queue. Our next participant is Hector Flores. Please state which agenda items you're addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning. This is Dr. Hector Flores. I'm addressing item 19 and general public comment. I'm the chair of family medicine at White Memorial Medical Center, and where we've spent 20 years, the last 20 years, implementing prevention and intervention programs for diabetes. I'm also the medical director of a community-based medical group called Family Care Specialists in East Los Angeles that shares that experience. I want to thank Supervisor Solis for making this motion, the diabetes and prediabetes awareness and prevention. I think it's a really important issue. The motion actually addresses the compelling reasons to do so at this time. And I would urge your board to consider establishing a health equity council or task force to build on your success. For example, I commend your board for also addressing the social determinants of health in our county, starting with affordable housing, but also addressing homelessness, food insecurity, transportation, public safety, and the built environment. And most recently, a historic decision to pilot a universal basic income program. Other cities like Stockton and other municipalities have shown that people actually use this money for healthy outcomes, including, in this case, buying sometimes a refrigerator so they can actually do their shopping on a weekly basis rather than living day to day, and importantly, being able to buy fresh food and other healthy food rather than relying on discounts from fast food outlets for their daily meal. I would also hope that you would consider perhaps building on that UBI by working with the state and ensuring some type of tax incentive or relief for employers who are willing to step up and offer a living wage for their employees so that it parallels what the Universal Basic Income program would establish. This motion outlines specific and effective actions. I commend that. And I would also suggest that your board consider, if you establish a health equity council, to do so in partnership with organizations that are moving towards health equity, such as the LA County Medical Association that has a public health council to partner with public health, and a health equity council, as well as the Hospital Association of Southern California that has a program called Communities Lifting Communities that addresses social determinants along with healthcare and integration of mental health and other challenges in our community. The Community Clinic Association of LA County, representing the safety net providers, is also a formidable partner, and local providers who are willing to step up and work with you to address this issue. So again, I speak in support of the motion, and I thank you for all the work that you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Kathy Spillar. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Thank you. I'm speaking in support of motion number 4 on advancing gender parity as a legislative priority in policing. And I want to thank Supervisors Kuehl and Solis for putting that motion forward. My name is Kathy Spiller, and I'm a member of the Women and Girls Initiative Advisory Council and worked with the Justice and Security Strategies to identify the factors behind the very low number of women in the LA Sheriff's Department. The low number of women in sworn positions does impact the culture and the relationship of the LASD to the people and communities of Los Angeles County. Contrary to earlier testimony, multiple studies over more than 40 years show the impact that female officers have on policing. Female officers use less force than their male counterparts. This holds across all racial and ethnic groups, and even in those situations where force is required, female officers use less extreme forms of violence. Female officers exhibit fewer controlling behaviors. They have better communication skills to resolve and de-escalate disputes, and they are less likely to be involved in corruption and engage in sexual misconduct. The JSS study evaluated the range of practices that contribute to the underrepresentation of women in the LSAD. Sexual harassment is certainly a factor, but the physical agilities exam is one of the major obstacles. All recruits to the LSAD must pass this physical agilities exam.
May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Peter Eliasberg. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Yes, hi, Peter Eliasberg from the ACLU of Southern California. I'd like to speak on agenda item 30 and also general public comment. I come to strongly support the authorization of the Department of State Hospitals award to expand ODR's innovative and very effective work on community-based restoration and diversion for people who have been designated as felons incompetent to stand trial. But the public comment I want to make is that even after the authorization of that award, approximately 360 people designated to this will remain in the jail. This is a step in the right direction, but it doesn't solve the problem. 60 to 75% of those people will be appropriate for community-based restoration or diversion. Getting that number to zero of those people who can and should be in CBR or diversion is essential because LA has been flagrantly violating its consent decree with the United States Department of Justice on the treatment of people with mental illness in the jails. One very specific point. There is supposed to be mental health housing, moderate or high observation housing, available immediately when someone needs it. But in fact, in the last report from the monitor on the consent decree, for men, when high observation housing was needed, it was never available in an appropriate and timely fashion. Of the people who've been designated FIS in the jails, 90% of them are either in moderate observation housing or high observation housing. There is no way that LA can meet the consent decree as long as those people are using that housing when they could be in the community being better served. It is essential that Los Angeles bring itself into compliance with that consent decree, which was entered in 2015. And the state has a significant incentive to fund Los Angeles' further expansion of its CBR and ODR work because the state has its own obligations to move people out of jails and other places of confinement and into treatment within 28 days. And the state is falling down terribly on its obligations. So the state has money set aside to satisfy its obligations under this case, which is called Ciavetti. The county has an incentive to expand its further CBR and diversion. The two should be working working together. As I said, this award is a step in the right direction, but it doesn't go nearly far enough, and I highly urge the county to get in touch with the state right away and start working out a way to expand the state's funding of ODR's diversion and CBR work. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is J. Stephen Brandley. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
My name is J. Stephen Brantley. I'm a resident of District 5, and I'm speaking in favor of items 16 and 30, in opposition to 44, and making general public comment. On item 16, I want to thank the board for hearing this motion to address the LASD's exploitation and mismanagement of the Inmate Welfare Fund. I was encouraged by the motion earlier this year exploring options for free phone calls and the elimination of commissary fees in county detention facilities. There can be no justification for charging for these essential needs. It is clearly yet another money grab by an already overfunded department that seeks to demonstrate its power by doing the most harm to the least powerful. So I fully support a comprehensive independent audit of LASD's uses of the money it has received from these services and whether and how funds have been allocated through the Inmate Welfare Fund. No one should be allowed to exploit the families of our incarcerated community members or to profit from their loved ones' basic needs, especially law enforcement. Should the audit reveal the kind of wasteful mismanagement we have come to expect from LASD, the county must hold that department accountable in a meaningful, actionable way. And I'm also glad that this motion calls for surveys of incarcerated individuals to determine what those needs may be, both while inside and upon reentry. I hope the county will make the findings of these surveys known and will consult with directly impacted individuals and the organizations that represent them in meeting the needs of incarcerated and newly released community members and their families. Denying the incarcerated their dignity does nothing to prevent crime or curb violence. Real support from agencies not seeking to profit off our loved ones' pain will. Item 30. I and many others have been urging the board to accept this much-needed funding from the state to expand community-based services for people with mental health needs for several months. I can't imagine what the holdup is, and I would ask the board to let folks know what kind of opposition there might be to investing in proven diversion models like the ODR SPIS program, with millions made available by the state. More than 40% of our incarcerated population have serious mental health needs that cannot be met in detention facilities. Ask anyone who's been inside, no one gets better in jail. Accepting this funding will save lives, reunite families, and reduce the prison population. It doesn't take care of all those in need, and yet it can't come too soon. The services provided by ODR's programs have proven effective in decreasing the number of incarcerated people with mental health concerns, but there are not enough beds to serve all those in need. Passing this motion would at least begin to make up that shortfall and would support the county's commitment to a Care First vision. Please do not continue to let this one drag along. Accept this funding now. On item 44, I strongly urge the board to reject this motion. The LASD's request for additional funding without even saying what these reimbursements are for shows us how little the sheriff thinks of our calls for transparency and accountability. It is an insult to the board, to the families of law enforcement victims, and to taxpayers who cover millions of dollars every year for police misconduct, excessive force, civil rights violations, and wrongful death settlements. Sheriff Genoveva has been insultingly dismissive of our calls for change. Perhaps he'd take more seriously a denial of tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Genoveva Gabrielle. Please state which agenda items you are addressing today, and if you are address general public comment, you may begin.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors, Dr. Genevieve Gabrielle. I will speak to item S1, 18, and 29. I was surprised that last time S1 was no longer on meeting and we came back. Item 18 is upsetting me to no end. I cannot believe Supervisor Solis want to extend the virtual meeting of the board. It's time that you reopen the board. Every else is reopened. The games, everything is reopened. Even the AME. Dr. Ferrer gave permission for the AME to meet without mask and nothing, where it was huge amount of people. Get back on the job. Have in-person meetings starting now, and not every other week. Back to every week. If it is an emergency, then you should meet every week, not every other week. Please go back to regular meeting. And on item 29, as usual, we're getting a report, receive and file, a report will say, to be determined, to be determined. Everything is to be determined. To me, that's not a report. Please reopen the board.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Thank you. As a reminder to address the board, if you have not already done so, please press 1 and then 0 at this time, but do not press 1 and 0 a second time, or you will be removed from the queue. Our next participant is Belen McKinsey. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning. My name is Belen McKinsey. I am a registered nurse and the administrative director for the Trauma Center at Pomona Valley Hospital. Good morning, and I'm calling in today on item number 57-C in support of our Supervisor Solis and our Supervisor Hahn's motion to expand the Trauma Prevention Initiative. With this motion, over the course of the next year, $1.15 million will be invested in hospital violence intervention program providers working with trauma hospitals to address the specific issues we already know exist. Knowing a problem exists and not having enough of the much-needed resources to launch an intervention is unethical. As a trauma center, our community continues to see daily the impact violence has on our communities of all ages. Our trauma center has witnessed a higher frequency of gun-related violence, higher speed motor vehicle collisions, and sadly, intentional self-inflicted injuries, also known as suicide. These additional investments will contribute significantly in outreach, education, support for survivors of violent crimes, mental health, and suicide prevention. Additionally, it needs to be known that our youth are becoming more and more involved in these life-changing traumatic events. These additional resources are needed to reduce the severity or prevent injury, but also to protect our families. The impact of the pandemic tragically has not only increased in the occurrences, but also severity in the injuries that we are seeing in the emergency room. Unfortunately, this is also occurring during a time when already scarce resources have been hampered even further by the pandemic.
May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Elizabeth Kreider. Please state the agenda items you're addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, I'm addressing general public comment. 3 years ago today, I met with Supervisor Barger's staff to talk in detail about toxic air pollutants emitted by heavy-duty diesel engines to be used at the Devil's Gate project conducted by LA County Department of Public Works. Our community advocacy efforts included many people, but the one I want to highlight is Supervisor Barger and her leadership. Without it, we would not have achieved the kind of safeguards that every resident in LA County deserves and counts on. This was a product of many months and years to achieve what has never been achieved before in the state of California, nor in the United States, a clear and enforceable plan for control of toxic air pollutants. This meeting that took place 3 years ago came at the 13th hour of this long overdue project. So no one was really inclined to listen since so much had gone into the planning. We are very grateful, we meaning the La Cañada Flint Ridge for Healthy Group parent group, we are so grateful for the board's willingness to support these safeguards and improvements to what seemed like a done deal. Thank you very much, Supervisor Barger, for this success. Our interactions with you and your staff and that of Director Mark Pastrella and his staff were collaborative and professional, and we certainly felt heard and valued by you, Supervisor Barger. We can all agree that every resident of LA deserves to live free from toxic air pollutants, whether you're a child living near the Port of LA in Supervisor Hahn's district or an educator.
Your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Eric Previn. Please state the agenda items you're addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Thank you. I'll address several items as well as the general public comment.
You have 3 minutes. Please begin.
Yeah. Okay, well, first of all, it's a very dense agenda, and we have to make a comment about, the fact that you've got Margaret Lee Thomas's name on there as a defendant in a lawsuit. I think people are concerned and worried about what that is. And I wanted to clarify that he was sued, among others, in his personal capacity for culpable action or inaction, the training, supervision, and control of the subordinates over at Public Defender's Office. You'll recall Nicole Davis Tingham, the county council, stepped over to be the interim leader over there briefly. This is regarding SVP detention. And they kept the guy without a trial for over 13 years. You all did. It's an appalling, astonishing number, especially in light of the fact that Mr. Ridley Thomas himself is being advanced to a trial in just a month or so. So it's amazing. This is just it was reckless, callous, and they called it deliberate indifference. And now Carly Catona is being promoted to be his caretaker over at CD10 during this period. Astonishing. Really, really astonishing. And yet you have time to delay the report on the financial status of the Sheriff's Department, which is item 25. Really, was not nice, okay? And the Women and Girls Initiative, I've been a fan of this because I have a daughter and I love women like the rest of us. I don't like, I saw the first to 5 production, which has been fleeced of Mr. Ridley Thomas completely. This is a 20-minute video about the Board of Supervisors, all first 5 women supervisor. Maybe think of the first 5 LA and poor Gloria Molina dealing with Zev Yaroslavsky and Mr. Ridley Thomas joking around about the administrative fees that the county's departments were stealing from the children. She said, this is a ripoff of the children. You all ought to be ashamed. Tag Mark Ridley Thomas. Thank you. Your time is up. Appalling. The Rancho Los Migos rehabilitation effort. Here we have finally some sort of an RFP for psychiatric work. I know, thanks Janice Hahn for bringing psychiatric treatment to the bus system. But here it's being handed off to Didi Hirsch. There seems to be nobody interested in these RFPs we have for the needs that we have. I wonder why that is. Well, it's unclear. Now we're going to we're sending in the Civil Brand Commission that's been, nothing personal, loafing around for all these years as we've endured brutality and mismanagement of our department. And the Sheriff's Civilian Oversight Commission, your ad hoc political group, and they're going to be looking at what people need in the way of services and programming for incarceration. The only problem I have with that is we're getting out of the incarceration business. We know what's needed, and it's just astonishing. I also wanted to bring attention to the Mauser Altabelli lawsuit, which is really the Bryant lawsuit carefully disguised. And why are we giving almost $3 million to Skip Miller of Miller Barandes to...
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Sandra Flores. Please state which agenda items you're addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning. I am addressing general public comments in support of agenda item 19. Good morning, board members. My name is Sandra Flores, and I direct education and socialization programs for Alma Family Services in the east side of Los Angeles, California. I'm calling in strong support for the Diabetes Awareness Prevention motion. As an educator, I have witnessed firsthand the effects that diabetes has on my students and their families. I have also witnessed how COVID-19 created a sedentary lifestyle for many, including children. Currently, I have students that are 5 years old and wearing size 10 in clothing. Sadly, I have witnessed many parents who lack information and support, allowing their children to overeat, select unhealthy food items like chips and soda, and failing to be a role model for healthy lifestyles. Yet this could all change. As an educator, I have the privilege to share my knowledge with families in the community. It starts with informing and coaching the parents, as well as creating outdoor programs with activities that can be accessible to everyone. In my classroom, we provide nutrition classes and work collaboratively with other agencies like WIC. As a team, we can work together towards reducing the risk of diabetes for children and their families. Latinx individuals do not have to continue to be a negative statistic. Instead, I believe we can show how change is possible when the appropriate funds, support, and motivation are all involved. This motion has the potential to literally save lives by changing the trajectory of many children and parental healthy lifestyles. I thank Supervisor Solis for sponsoring it and hope the full board supports this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Jenifer Vascos. Please state the agenda items you're addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning. My name is Jenifer Vascos, the City Manager of the City of Maywood. I am speaking in favor of Agenda Item 14 and general public comment. I would like to thank Supervisors Solis and Barger for introducing this critical motion which will help support cities that want to expand homeless services in their jurisdictions. In the City of Maywood, like many cities across the county, we are dealing with growing numbers of unhoused residents. We know that the solution of homelessness is more housing, both interim and permanent. However, one of the reoccurring obstacles for cities, specifically small cities, is the cost of operations for the intensive services needed to ensure people leave interim housing and move on to permanent housing. The Cities and COGS Interim Housing Fund will provide cities opportunities to build out the resources needed to support homeless residents. This additional resource is a great way for cities, the county, and the COGS to continue working together to expand homeless services. Maywood recognizes this firsthand as we have already been able to expand our homeless services through a grant from the COGS Innovation Fund. We look forward to working more with the COGS Innovation Fund on this next round. Thank you for your consideration and continued support as we work to expand homeless services together.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Mark Gale. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
I'd like to address item 30 in public comment. My name is Mark Gale. I'm Criminal Justice Chair for NAMI Greater Los Angeles County. I'd like to thank Dr. Gale for submitting the recommendation letter to the board for item 30. And I would also like to thank the ACLU and Peter Eliasberg for masterfully drafting a letter to the board on item 30 that spells out the details of why approving this item is so important. He has said it so well, I don't need to report the details. You have the letter. I encourage all of you to read it carefully. NAMI GLAC has signed on to the ACLU letter, and we would like to add an additional punctuation to our letter. You know, long before there was an ODR and our strong diversion efforts, there were hundreds of people who were incompetent to stand trial back then, both misdemeanor and felony in our jail system. Then we were going to build a mental health jail, and there were still hundreds of people who were FIST. And then that plan was scrapped, but hundreds of people still remained in being held indeterminately as missed and FIST clients. After that, we finally developed our ODR programming, and we had years of our ATI initiative, which thank God is still continuing. And still, there are over 500 missed and FIST clients in the jail. It is long past the time for this remedy. Item 30 is an essential start to solving this and beginning a remedy. Let's not stop here. We must continue forward with our reform efforts as outlined in all of our ATI initiatives. We can't say we're care first, jail last, and leave hundreds of people remaining in the jail. Item 30 is not enough. It is an essential beginning to removing the sickest of the sick from our jails and putting community restoration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Pamela Alou. Please state the agenda items you're addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning. My name is Pamela Alou. I'm a senior attorney at Disability Rights California. I'll be speaking to item 30 in general public comment. Mark Gale spoke, Peter Eliasberg spoke, we've submitted a letter, they've lined that all out, and I also joined with Mark in urging the board to carefully consider Peter Eliasberg's letter on this matter, as he very skillfully points out why not only accepting this funding, but expanding funding is very critical and actually a win and necessary for LA County. I won't reiterate what they've said already, but only just add at the end that I serve on the Department of State Hospitals and Competent to Stand Trial Solutions Work Group. The state of California, counties across California are grappling with this issue. By participating in those work groups, I see that other counties look to LA County's Office of Diversion and Reentry as a gold standard because of its innovation and success at treating people with serious mental illness in the community. So as Mark and Peter have said, LA County should not only approve the existing proposal, but engage with the Department of State Hospitals to expand ODR's important work, not only to bring the county into compliance with the DOJ's consent decree, but to really make our Care First, Jails Last a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Rosa Soto. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm addressing item 19 and general public comment. I'm calling today in support of Supervisor Solis's motion on diabetes and prediabetes awareness and prevention in LA County. I'm Executive Director of the Wellness Center at Historic General Hospital. Our mission is to support patients outside of the doctor's office with health and wellness services to help them address social determinants of health. In LA County, with over 900,000 adults diagnosed with diabetes, the impact to our community is staggering, particularly to our Latinx, Black, and Native American communities. The direct cost of diabetes treatment in LA County alone is estimated to be as high as $6 billion each year. The cost of outreach, education, and resources is much more reasonable and ensures that our communities have the tools they need to address this disease. This motion particularly calls for the county to partner with our County Office of Education and school districts and other community partners throughout the county to improve access to healthy meals at schools, including reducing food waste and connecting schools to healthy food options. It also provides for culturally relevant messaging to be geared towards students and their families through public campaigns and through new partnerships. It is possible to reverse this epidemic that has so critically impacted the county's most vulnerable communities. I ask for your support of this motion that will reinforce and coordinate our efforts here in the county and raise awareness and provide resources to help reduce the incidence of diabetes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Ellen Geezy. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Hello, my name is Ellen Geezy. I would like to speak in favor of agenda items 6, 16, 30, 57C, and in opposition to item 44 and on general public comment. Regarding item 30, and again, this is in favor, the county's commitment towards a Care First vision is an empty promise without investing in proven diversion models. I've called in and spoken and written in regarding the success of ODR's FIST program and the pretrial felony mental health diversion program, and these proposed expansions of these programs are essential to achieving a Care First vision of Los Angeles. The number of incarcerated people with serious mental health needs is rising rapidly in county jails, making up more than 40% of the incarcerated population. And Supervisor Barger, my personal supervisor, has even spoken on just how bad the situation is at MCJ and how much we need to be diverting those people into mental health programs and getting them the care and help that they need. And then in regards to item 44, again, strongly opposing. Once again, the Sheriff's Department wanting more money to cover up their mistakes rather than taking it out of their already overinflated budget to continue to cause harm in the community and then just have taxpayer money cover it up is an absolute heinous atrocity that we've spoken on this matter so many times. So many of us call in, write in, speaking on this matter. The fact that it is still coming up is so disheartening when you have made your stance as a board, as a commitment to a Care First LA. This is a strong mark against that commitment. In regards to item 16, this welfare fund is so important. We need more things to help, again, with the Care First commitment this board has made. And this is another item that will help in that fight. And then for item 6, the initiating the Hollywood 2.0 pilot project, I want to thank Supervisor Kuehl for this motion. And the pilot represents a commitment to investing in community-based models for mental health care. The Hollywood 2.0 pilot has the potential to truly bring holistic support for community members experiencing difficulties in unemployment, housing availability, mental health care, and substance use assistance. This is a smart use of the Innovations Fund, and I am looking forward to following the pilot as it develops and hopefully expands to other cities throughout LA County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Shan Mann. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please begin.
Hi, good morning. My name is Shan Mann. I'm a representative with the Carpenters Union, and this morning I will speak on item 62 in favor of. Thank you very much.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Ray Vaca. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address again.
Good morning. This is Ray Baca, Executive Director for the Engineering Contractors Association. I'm here to speak on agenda item number 26 regarding the Palmdale EIFD and to express our support for approval of the financing plan resolution. We feel that the infrastructure projects not only are greatly needed to enhance the services available to the residents of the area, but also to help accelerate job growth and accessible housing opportunity. Our association stands ready to assist in any way that we can. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Isabela Jones. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Isabela Jones, and I'm here to speak on a public comment. I am an Eagle Collegiate Academy supporter, and I am calling for the Board of Supervisors' support to get the necessary departments, especially Regional Planning and Public Works, to approve the site plan and permits so that Eagle Collegiate Academy can open in person. This is impacting our students, parents, teachers, and staff waiting for the school to be approved of the necessary plans and needs to have a facility to teach, learn, and grow. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Kristen James. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please begin.
Hi, I'm Kristen James, and I'm speaking on general public comment. I'm speaking on behalf of Eagle Academy, and I'm asking again for the Board of Supervisors to assist Regional Planning and Public Works to release the permits to move along ECA so we can open our facilities to our families, teachers, and students. Please help, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. As a reminder to address the board, if you have not already done so, please press 1 and then 0. Do not press 1 and 0 a second time, or you'll be removed from the queue. Our next person.
We will now hear the Spanish interpretation of this reminder.
Como recordatorio para dirigirse a la Junta, si aún no lo ha hecho, presione 1 y luego 0 en este momento. No presione 1 y 0 por segunda vez o será eliminado de la fila. Gracias.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Faiza Malik. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Faiza Malik from Public Counsel. I'm calling in support of item 62 on the housing element and general public comment.
Please begin.
Good morning, Supervisors. Together with the Eastside Leads Coalition, Public Counsel submitted a comment letter on the draft. While we support many of the programs outlined in the housing element, we urge the board to take further steps to strengthen its programs through stronger affordability and tenant protection. In particular, the draft housing element identifies a number of sites in unincorporated East LA for the site inventory and rezoning program. As noted in the housing element, East LA is an area at risk of displacement and among the areas where fair housing issues are most prevalent. By identifying sites in East LA for the inventory but without any corresponding inclusionary housing requirement, the housing element will effectively increase displacement pressures in an already rapidly gentrifying neighborhood. Therefore, the county must extend inclusionary housing requirements to East LA and other submarkets before any rezonings take place. The county cannot expect to have affordable housing built on these sites and count them for the low-income RHNA without a mechanism to ensure such housing is actually built, such as an inclusionary requirement. Extending inclusionary would also aid the county in meeting its duties to affirmatively further fair housing. As the blueprint for development in the unincorporated areas for the next 8 years, it is essential that the housing element not only plan for development of much-needed housing for low-income residents, but also include strong programs to preserve existing affordable housing and rent-stabilized housing and prevent displacement and protect tenants. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Gilbert S. Please state which agenda items you will be addressing today, and if you wish to address general public comment, you may begin.
Yeah, so this is Gilbert S. from the Gateway Cities Council of Governments, and speaking on
One moment, please. Mr. Saldate, yep, could you start over?
Okay. Gilbert Saldate with the Gateway Cities Council of Governments. I'm speaking on agenda item 14 and general public comment. First off, I would like to thank Supervisor Solis and Barger for the introduction of the motion to expand interim housing and services to cities across LA County, and I am in support of this motion. Homelessness has increased across LA County, and interim housing is needed just as much as permanent housing. This funding is needed to support and assist cities to address homeless issues that our homeless neighbors face. This funding will positively impact and bring much-needed resources to individuals in ending their homelessness and bridge hope back to them within the cities of Los Angeles County. Once again, thank you, Supervisors Solis and Barger.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Chuck Powell. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Yes, I'd like to address public comment, and I'm speaking on number 62. Hi, my name is Chuck Powell. I'm a member of the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. I reside in West Hills, and I live and work in the County of Los Angeles. I believe that I will be impacted, environmentally impact of the project. The county should require housing projects development pursuant to the housing element update to be built utilizing a local skilled and trained workforce. Local hire and skilled and trained workforce requirements reduce construction-related environmental impacts while benefiting the local economy. In the recent 2020 reports titled Pushing California to a High Road, a Job and Climate Action Plan for 2030, the California Workforce Development Board considered that investing in growth, diversity, and upskilling California workforce can positively affect returns on climate mitigation efforts. Moreover, just this year, the South Coast Air Quality Management District found that using a local state certified apprenticeship program or a skilled and trained workforce with a local hire component can reduce the air pollution reduction. Recently, the city of Hayward in Northern California adopted a skilled and trained workforce requirements into the general plan and municipal code. Local skilled and trained workforce requirements can boost economy, develop and mitigate transportation greenhouse gases impact by minimizing vehicle miles traveled. The county should add local skilled and trained workforce requirements for future housing projects to address regional housing needs to benefit the community's economic development as well as environmental. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Speaker, please.
Our next participant is Richard Coral. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning. I'm addressing item number 14, Interim Housing Services Fund for Cities and Councils of Governments Combating Homelessness, authored by Supervisors Solis and Barger. Good morning, everybody. My name is Richard Corral. I'm the homeless coordinator, City of South El Monte. Our city is seeing more calls from homeless families that are seeking assistance, often with 2 or 3 children. The parents are receiving unemployment benefits through COVID for the past year, but were cut off recently due to the program ending, and our coordinated entry system lead is having difficulties placing families in shelters. Our city, along with the cities of El Monte, Baldwin Park, have teamed up to address homelessness regionally through the Mid-Valley Collaborative on Homelessness. As part of this effort, our cohort cities have conducted studies and advocated for funding on several temporary housing projects, including 2 home key sites in El Monte, a tiny home village project in Baldwin Park, the Back Home Initiative to build ADUs in South El Monte and throughout our cohort cities, as well as redevelopment of school sites to house children and families experiencing homelessness in South El Monte. A significant challenge to sustaining these sites is securing funds for the ongoing operations and service dollars. So the creation of a $10 million Cogman Cities Interim Housing Services Fund is very much needed and appreciated. Thank you so much, Supervisors Solis and Barger, for doing this. I'd also like to note that the provision of homeless services does not exist in a vacuum and requires dedicated city staff to coordinate across numerous partners, including our individuals and families experiencing homelessness, city staff, partner cities, service partners, coordinated entry system leads, county departments, etc. They also need to attend all relevant meetings, including city, cohort, county, and COG meetings, complete and submit funding requests to the COG as well as to the Homeless Initiative for the county, as well as documentation and invoices to secure and ensure accountability and reimbursements. For many small cities like South El Monte, the above tasks are taken on by Recreation and Parks, Public Works, and even city management. However, these activities fall outside.
Your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Angelica Palmero. Please state the agenda items you'll address today, and if you wish to address general public comment, you may begin.
Hello, my name is Angelica Palmero. I'm the Deputy Director with the Montebello Fire Department, and I'm speaking on agenda item number 14 and general public comment. I would like to thank Supervisor Solis and Supervisor Barger for introducing this critical motion, which will help cities like ours that want to expand on homeless services in our jurisdiction, and also support cities across the county as we continue to find efficient solutions to address our homeless needs and address the growing number of our unhoused residents. I know that one of our solutions, or one of the many solutions to homelessness, is to address housing, both interim and permanent. Yet, as many say, our cities have limited to no funding to set up these interim housing plans or projects, and more importantly, often we don't have funds to pay for a dedicated staff and also for direct services that are much needed to support those addressing homelessness. So in the city of Montebello, we recently launched a paramedicine emergency behavioral model through our fire department to address our unhoused community. But obviously we didn't have a location to stabilize them and provide additional support. So recently we were able to get a grant with the San Gabriel Valley COG, which is helping the city of Montebello develop a project called, for the tiny homes, which is called Operation Stay Safe, to provide our individuals a stable place to receive services. The cities and the COG's interim housing will help more cities build out the resources needed to support homeless residents. With this funding,
We will be able to open more interim housing sites within our jurisdiction to better serve our homeless residents. This is an important issue right now for us, especially having so many of our clients with health issues, mental health issues, and just the ability to get them through this process of being assisted. So thank you for your consideration on this matter.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next participant is Zek Sandoval. Please state the agenda items you'll address today, and if you wish to address general public comment, you may begin.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please begin.
Great. Thank you. Good morning. This is Zek Sandoval speaking on behalf of PATH, People Assisting the Homeless, regarding items 6 and 14. So
yes,
regarding
please begin.
Great. Thank you so much. Regarding item 6, PATH maintains a significant presence in Hollywood, commensurate with the area's acute need. Our outreach, housing navigation, and rapid rehousing teams conduct daily street outreach in Hollywood and the surrounding areas. We also operate both interim and permanent housing sites in the area, including 2 abridged home shelters, a permanent supportive housing site for individuals and families, and a Project Home Key site now acting as permanent supportive housing. So we know from experience that person-centered, trauma-informed services like Hollywood 2.0 can change the trajectory of an unhoused resident's life. And we're very excited to support this motion and very grateful to Supervisor Kuehl for her leadership and persistence. Regarding item 14, PATH operates 8 interim housing sites across the county and partners with many COGs in similar cities on street outreach that often refers people into interim housing. We've seen that supportive services on site at interim housing can help an individual address their immediate needs and start their journey back into stable housing. So we're very thankful for Supervisors Solis and Barger for apportioning these funds for cities of every size to assist communities grappling with this statewide crisis and currently lacking the resources to match the need. We do want to reemphasize that the most effective long-term strategy to end the homelessness crisis and relieve the burden on cities of every type is to increase county investments in permanent supportive housing. Interim housing to be a life-saving stopgap. Permanent housing is the life-changing solution, providing people in shelters or on our streets with exits out of homelessness and into long-term housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Gwen Schneider. Please state the agenda items you're addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Gwen Schneider. I'm from District 3. I'll be speaking on agenda items 4, 16, 44, and general public comment. So for item 6, I'm in favor. I want to thank Supervisor Kuehl for this motion initiating the Hollywood 2.0 pilot project. The pilot represents a commitment to investing in community-based models of mental health care. The Hollywood 2.0 pilot has the potential to truly bring holistic support for community members experiencing difficulties in employment, housing availability, mental health care, and substance use assistance. This is a smart use of innovation funds, and I'm looking forward to following the pilot as it develops and hopefully expands to other cities throughout the LA County. This pilot program has immense potential, and I encourage DMH and the county to direct focus towards the LGBTQGI+ population. The building out of job hubs with site locations, peer-to-peer support teams, must be done in a manner that is informed by the demographic makeup of Hollywood. I encourage the board and DMH to work closely with the Los Angeles LGBT Center when building out the Hollywood 2.0 pilot. The LGBT Center has provided Los Angeles queer pop community and healthcare counseling, job training, and community buildings for decades. For item 16, I'm in favor. I thank Supervisor Solis for this necessary motion to address the Sheriff's Department's exploitations of incarcerated persons and their families. The board's May motion exploring options for free phone calls and eliminating commissary fees was a great first step, and I'm encouraged to hear that an independent auditor is auditing the Sheriff's Department's uses of inmate welfare funds. This motion is robust in that it both calls for additional audits and takes on an individual focus of incarcerated persons. I encourage the board to pass this motion wholeheartedly and to commit to making the right choices once the auditor's recommendations are returned. What is already clear is that there is no legitimate justification for the fees associated with phone calls and commissaries, and therefore they should be eliminated. And for item 44, I strongly oppose the sheriff's request for funds because they do not specify what these reimbursements are for. Yet another example of the sheriff refusing transparency and accountability. sheriff costs LA County taxpayers millions of dollars each year. On today's board agenda alone, LASD misconduct wasted $3.3 million in the form of settlements for accidents, excessive force, wrongful death, civil rights violations, and more. This is an egregious amount of money for taxpayers to be spending on bailing out the sheriff's departments for their violence and misconduct. And every 2 weeks, taxpayers watch millions of dollars be spent to cover misconduct for the hands of LASD. Every dollar that goes to the sheriff's department is stolen from our community and used to fund sheriff's violence in LA County. And for item 57C, I'm in favor, and I want to thank Supervisors Flores and Hahn for continuing to be champions for community-driven public safety initiatives. A care-first approach to violence prevention must prioritize community-based programs and strategies that are delivered by people with lived experience. Investing more money into expansion of the trauma prevention initiative is a great step towards reorienting public safety approaches away from reliance on...
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Joshua Christianson. Please state the agenda items you will address today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Yeah, my name is Josh Christensen. I will be speaking on item 62.
Please begin. You have 1 minute.
Yeah, my name is Josh Christensen. I'm a representative with the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. We want to, before we make this, pass this item, we'd like to make sure that all things are lining up in line. In housing industry, in the state of California last year, $3 billion of tax revenue went towards health funds for healthcare workers. They used the safety medical, like Medicare, Medicaid, all these different types of services. You know, we got to make sure that people who build these projects have healthcare, have good paying jobs. And we're asking that you do not pass this agenda item until those are a requirement in this agenda, in this housing development. Thank you much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Harvey Miller. Please state the agenda items you will address today, and if you will address general public comment, you may begin.
I'm speaking only in opposition to item 5 for Attorney Harvey Miller, who's unable to attend today's meeting. He's seeking an important clarification for his clients, this being whether the proposed armory project would service only veterans. If the purpose is to service any and all homeless, then the board should know an underlying restrictive covenant bars the armory property from being used for any purpose other than for veterans. That covenant is contained in a deed that was a material issue in litigation brought by the ACLU against the Department of Veterans Affairs. That litigation, known as the Valenti case, was settled out of court. However, if the board proceeds with a project that violates that covenant, the board should be forewarned that the formidable legal issues the ACLU raised in the Valenti case are likely to be revisited. There are also significant public policy arguments against building any homeless project on the armory property. Such a project would further concentrate the homeless around the already heavily impacted West LA VA campus and surrounding community. As we know from experience at downtown LA, such concentrations can only be unhealthy, unproductive, and tragic. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Fabian Garcia. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, good morning. It's Fabian Garcia, addressing item 57C. I'm with Homeboy Industries, and first of all, thank you, Supervisor Solis and Supervisor Hahn, for introducing the motion. And at Homeboy Industries, as you might know, we believe in second chances and opportunities for people. And we think that fast-tracking and getting some funding out into the community through OVP and some of the structures and strategies that we currently have in place is super important, especially right now. As we exit COVID, or as we're exiting COVID, the community definitely needs extra support and resources, and the county can do that and not wait until the end of 2022 by passing this motion. So again, Fabian Garcia in support of the motion of ensuring that we get the funding to implement implement hospital-based intervention and community-based intervention services immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Pamela Augustin. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Supervisors. This is Pamela Augustin with Eastside. I am speaking on agenda item 62 in support. So, Supervisors, can you hear me?
So we can. Please begin.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Supervisors, as my colleague Faisal Malik mentioned to you earlier, Eastside Leads, in partnership with Public Counsel, submitted a comment letter to your offices yesterday. And we included in this letter recommendations for 10 specific housing element programs, numbers 8, 9, 17, 22, 38, 40, 41, 45 to 47. Specifically for Program 8, the Metro Area Plan, we recommend that it prioritize deeply and extremely low-income affordable housing, along with strong tenant protections and preservation of existing affordable housing. We believe that this is important because a majority of the 11 communities that the map, that the Metro Area Plan will engage in, are communities that the housing element itself identifies as having higher concentrations of census tracts that are considered communities that face risk of displacement. Other components in our map recommendations include that map should expand.
May we have the next speaker, please?
As a reminder, to address the board, if you have not already done so, please press 1 and then 0 at this time, but do not press 1 and 0 a second time, or you will be removed from queue.
We will now hear the Spanish interpretation of this reminder.
Para dirigirse a la Junta, si aún no lo ha hecho, presione 1 luego 0 en este momento. No presione 1 y 0 por segunda vez, o será eliminado de la fila. Gracias.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Don Hakim. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, good morning, Supervisors. My name is Don Hakim, and I'm speaking on behalf of Eagle Collegiate Academy. As a taxpayer, parent, and community member, I am really disappointed and appalled at the delayed tactics by the Antelope Valley Regional Planning Board. It is unexcusable that there are new things that come up every week. As a publicly funded charter school, what they're asking for is really ridiculous in terms of making the presence a Western theme. Schools do not have this type of funding, and really honestly, I think all taxpayers should be super upset that this is more important, a look or having some theme is more important than children's education. And every money that is received should be going towards the enrichment of these children who are now doing school virtually because of these delays that have happened for over 5 months. Again, please help Eagle Collegiate Academy get these kids back in school as the only K through 3 international baccalaureate
Your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Reggie Hunt. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Yes, this is Reggie Hunt, 1914 in public comment and 62. I would like to start with number 19, the reduction or the proactiveness in diabetes starts in the schools with the kids. Number 14, I'd like to thank the supervisors who supported this intern housing and stuff like that. Although we know we need 21,000 people to go through intern housing in the county, we have a long ways to go. I'd like to address public comment to Supervisor Hahn. I went by in Paramount. I was a volunteer at one of your sites at Exodus and Housing for Health. It's a great site. if I were you, I would involve like 5 more LVNs for the 80 residents that need medical treatment and things like that. That's very important. It's a great site. It's helping a lot of people, and we have a long ways to go. So 21 more thousand people needs to be housed. Tear down the projects and rebuild them, and let's get on board and get this done right. The logistics, or the statistics are right, but the logistics are wrong. We need to start thinking out of the box. Let's rebuild the projects and get people housed in a timely manner in the next 5 years. The Red Chief Hunt from the Red Chief Hunt administration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Melinda Kakani. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, this is Melinda Kakani from Children's Defense Fund California and the Let's Get Free Coalition. I'll be speaking on item number 16 and giving general public comment. I just wanted to thank Supervisor Solis and voice my very strong support for a programmatic audit of the Inmate Welfare Fund. As it exists right now, that $15 million that is supposed to go to the support of folks who are currently stuck, trapped, ensnared in our county jail system, only 51% of that goes to programming, while 49% goes to maintenance. And that's the split that's decided by the sheriff, not decided by the folks who are incarcerated and whose dollars actually fund that fund. I just wanted to note that, the sheriff gets $3.3 billion every year, so it's unclear why they need an additional, essentially, $7.5 million to maintain those facilities. Those dollars should come out of their $3.3 billion budget. Second, as it relates to the specifics of the Inmate Welfare Fund, I just want to note some of the oddities within the line items of that fund. $10,000 are allocated for movie videos for justice-involved populations. It's 2021. No one's using videos. $11,000 are marked for as-needed travel and training expenses related to identifying improvements in justice-involved population programming. What does that even mean? $50,000 of the Inmate Welfare Fund is being used to audit the Inmate Welfare Fund. It feels incredibly strange and questionable that dollars that are coming from the community are then being used to audit the way the sheriff is using those dollars. $2.3 million are being marked for Union Hall staff employee benefit costs. That does not seem like it supports the reentry, rehabilitation, and general satisfaction of folks who are currently incarcerated. So this programmatic audit is wildly overdue. The sheriff, the ISC, the auditor controller have been constantly pushing this narrative.
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Emanuel Estrada. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, good morning. My name is Emanuel Estrada. I am the mayor of Baldwin Park. I am speaking on agenda item 14 and to the general public comment. I want to thank Supervisors Solis and Barger for introducing this motion. Increasing and expanding homeless services is vital now more than ever, especially after the pandemic. Here in the city of Baldwin Park, even pre-pandemic, we have seen our numbers double and double year after year. Here in the city, we are also on path to opening the very first tiny home village in the San Gabriel Valley, which will be known as Esperanza Villa, and this will provide individuals a stable place to receive services, and it is slated to open at the end of November. The support of the COG and the Regional Housing Trust was instrumental to bringing this project to fruition, and the cities and COGs, an interim housing fund for cities and COGs will help more cities build out the resources needed to support homeless residents locally. The city of Baldwin Park is spearheading efforts in the San Gabriel Valley, and in September we also acquired a second site in which we plan to offer emergency housing for families. Funds like the ones stated in item 14 can help cities like ours continue our ambitious efforts and encourage our neighbors to make an effort to initiate their own local efforts. So once again, I just wanted to show support for item number 14 and thank our supervisors for taking on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Javier Gonzales. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, I'd like to address public comment. I'm a parent in the Santa Clarita Valley, and I'm calling because of regional planning and public works have been delaying the process of our school, Eagle Collegiate Academy. I'm a parent, and my child has been waiting anxiously to go in person, and there's just been delay after delay, and there's no answer from public works on whether or not they're going to approve the permits and whether or not they're going to release them, and so that we can go in person. We've been waiting for over 5 months now, just waiting to see what's going to happen next, and there's still no answer from regional planning and public works. If you can help us out and release the permits so that our children can go to school in person, because honestly, going virtual online, it's not the best. Our children want to interact with the teachers. They want to interact with their fellow students.
Your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Eurico Ruiz Esparza. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Madam Chair and Supervisors, my name is Eurico Ruiz Esparza, Community Services Supervisor for the City of Baldwin Park, speaking in favor of agenda item number 14, interim housing services for cities and councils of government. We express our gratitude for the leadership of Supervisors Alou and Barger for their continued support in the unprecedented efforts to combat homelessness across LA County. Locally in the San Gabriel Valley, what these efforts have represented is an overwhelming action driven of cohort cities, councils of government, working together to leverage resources and seek solutions to join together to implement the coordinated strategies in our communities. The City of Baldwin Park has advocated for local homeless services support since 2017 and has witnessed firsthand how these funding opportunities can strengthen the ability of cities and COGs to bring local solutions. Esperanza Villa, the bridge housing tiny home site coming to Baldwin Park, will be the first of its kind in the San Gabriel Valley and will serve as a model for the region. The site will consist of 25 units for individuals experiencing homelessness, and we urge you to approve the motion that will allow additional opportunities to support cities in their efforts to provide sustainable, individual, on-site services and case management, as well as security and other services that city departments need in order to provide a holistic approach for interim housing solutions. We thank you again for your efforts and hope that you continue to find additional resources and future funding sources that can achieve the goals of our homeless plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Jessica Sanchez. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and if you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Hello, your line is open. Please begin.
Hello?
Yes, please begin. Your line is open.
Yes. Hi, my name is Jessica Sanchez, and I'm calling in support to Isabela Jones' motion to create immediate services for community-based intervention and hospital-based intervention. I'm calling on behalf of Homeboy Industries, and I just want to say how important this motion is, and I just want to thank Isabela Jones for putting it on, and I just want to say I'm in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next participant is Uzo Maduske. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Uzo Maduske. I'll be addressing a general public comment, and it is about how long the Antelope Valley Office of Regional Planning is taking to approve and release Eagle Collegiate Academy site plan because of, frivolities like wagon wheels. I mean, it is appalling and it's not fair to all tax-paying parents. We've been looking forward to this school being open so that our kids can start in-class learning. and we feel that the total disregard for the welfare and education of students should be corrected immediately, and because this is the school of our choice in our area, we're just begging and pleading that you do something for our children, and we're thanking you in anticipation.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Our next participant is Monique Alvarez. Please state the agenda items you are addressing today and whether you will address general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, good morning. My name is Monique Alvarez, and I'm a third-generation resident of Carson, California. I am in favor of Agenda Item 57A and 57D, the proclamation of local emergency and provision of critical actions. On behalf of our displaced and sick and desperate community, I'm imploring the LA County Board of Supervisors to take charge of this health crisis and escalate this issue to federal intervention. We've had enough. The mitigating factors and remediation plans from LA Department of Health and LA Public Works have been impractical. And at this point, inhumane. We have people that are going through bodily injuries and sicknesses, and now it's mental trauma. We've been 1 month dealing with this crisis, and we have no tangible resources to this day other than a purifier from LA County. That's unacceptable. It's also incredibly insulting to minimize this as an odor event when our bodies are crying out that there's danger in our homes. And we have Steve Bradford, the senator, on record on 1025 press conference, declaring this as a poison being released in our community. Enough is enough, and we are crying out for help at this point. We need attention to this matter. To this day, not one person in our community has been reimbursed for the expenses that has been incurring through this crisis, and we really are desperate for attention and federal assistance at this point. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Madam Chair, there are no other speakers in the queue to address the board.
Thank you. I understand that Supervisor Barger would like to be recognized.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I want to provide some clarity on comments made by some of the callers during public comment today. I believe there have been multiple comments related to permitting of a new charter school in Agua Dulce known as Eagle Collegiate Academy. And I want to clarify that the county departments and my office have been working with the leadership of Eagle Collegiate Academy for several months to help them navigate the county's permitting process. The process includes requirements by the county to have the school make necessary improvements on and off-site to ensure that the school site can safely operate for the children, teachers, and administrators who will be present daily. So I just want to make clear to the parents, I don't know what information is being provided by the school, but we are involved, and the school administration is very aware of the requirements that the county has in place. Public Works and Regional Planning have had meetings, as is my office, with the school administration. They know what they need to do. We will continue to work with them, but we will not cut corners in order to accommodate what they perceive as unnecessary rules and regulations that relates to county requirements and also state requirements, by the way. So I just wanted to make that clear to the parents, and I will be putting something up on my web page outlining what we have done so there is no miscommunication between the parents, my office, and the administration. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We still have another caller on the line, so I want to recognize them, and then I will go to Supervisor Hahn, who wants to make a comment.
Thank you. That participant is Shan Mann. Please state the agenda items you're addressing today and whether you address general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, thank you very much. I apologize earlier. I misunderstood, but my name is Shan Mann, and I'm a local union carpenter representative who live in Los Angeles County, and I would like to see labor standards and a community wealth policy included in this general plan for the housing element update. In future projects under these plans, the county should incorporate language requiring family supporting wages, contractors that provide full family health plans, skilled and trained workforce standards throughout certified apprenticeship, paid sick leave, pension, vacation, holiday pay, and local hires. We believe that the residents obviously deserve an innovative economic solution that puts them on the path to build better careers, increases access to family health care, and enrich the community at large. Thank you very much.
you to address the board.
Thank you. Then I will recognize Supervisor Hahn as our last speaker.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to also make a clarification about an earlier caller who referenced the lack of a bus bench on Nogales Street in Hacienda Heights. My two deputies, Lauren and Nick, who were called out as well, have been working on this, and I wanted to just let the community of Hacienda Heights know that Public Works will be installing a bus bench by the end of this month. So just wanted that community to know there will be a bus bench installed by our Department of Public Works by the end of this month. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Members, that concludes our 90 minutes of public comment, and our time has ended. So I want to thank everybody that called in. If you were unable to provide your comments, you can still submit written comments as indicated on the agenda, and we'll continue to accept all written comments that come in during the meeting, which will become a part of our record. Madam Executive Officer, please indicate the agenda item numbers on which we will be voting.
The following items are before you: 1D through 4D, 1P, 1 through 5, 7, 8 as revised, 9 through 13, 15 and 16, 17 as revised, 20 through 24, 26 through 30, 32 through 37, 39 through 56, 57B through 57D, and 60.
Moved by Supervisor Hahn and seconded by Supervisor Barger to approve these items. Madam Executive Officer, please call the roll.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Good morning. Aye.
Supervisor Mitchell, aye. Supervisor Kuehl.
Aye.
Supervisor Kuehl, aye. Supervisor Hahn.
Aye.
Supervisor Hahn, aye. Supervisor Barger.
Aye.
Supervisor Barger, aye. Supervisor Solis.
Aye.
Supervisor Solis, aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Today, members, we'll begin with the set item S1, followed by items 6,